Elon Musk's AI is undressing women on the internet and it's making him more money than ever.
Yeah, that is the wildest headline I've read in a while, but it's literally true. Reuters reported yesterday that Grok's US market share jumped from 1.9% in January 2025 to 17.8% in January 2026. That's almost a tenfold increase in 12 months.
And the controversy that was supposed to destroy Grok, the mass undressing spree as Reuters called it apparently did the opposite. More people signed up. More people started using it. Grok is now the third most popular AI chatbot in the country behind ChatGPT and Google Gemini.
So let's rewind and talk about what actually happened. Late December 2025, users on X figured out they could tag Grok on any photo and say, put her in a bikini, and Grok would just do it. It would generate an AI altered version of the person in revealing clothing.
And this went absolutely viral. Reuters tracked over 100 requests in a single 10-minute window. Young women, celebrities, politicians, someone even tried it on a monkey.
A musician from Rio de Janeiro named Julie Yukari posted a photo of herself in a red dress with her cat on New Year's Eve. The next morning, AI-generated near-nude images of her were circulating across X. She said she was naive to think the bot wouldn't comply.
And here's where it gets really uncomfortable. Reuters also found cases where Grok created sexualized images of what appeared to be minors. One post from the Grok X account itself acknowledged generating an image of two young girls estimated ages 12 to 16 in sexualized attire.
Let me be clear here, because we need to draw a sharp line. Images involving minors, real or generated, that's not a gray area. That's not a freedom debate. That's a crime in most jurisdictions, and it should be.
100%. And we're going to talk about that line and where it should be drawn. Because what happened after the backlash is where it gets interesting. Indonesia and Malaysia flat out blocked Grok. France reported X to prosecutors. India demanded answers from X's local office. XAI responded by restricting image generation to paying subscribers only.
And Musk's response, he posted laugh cry emojis at AI-edited photos of celebrities in bikinis, including one of himself.
Classic Musk. But here's the question nobody is really asking honestly. If we remove the minors issue, which again is not up for debate, and we remove the non-consent issue of using real people's photos, what's actually wrong with AI generating adult content of fictional people?
And this is where we get into the philosophical territory that I think is actually worth exploring. Because right now, you can boot up Grand Theft Auto and run over pedestrians with a car. You can play Mortal Kombat and rip someone's spine out through their chest. Nobody is calling for those games to be banned in 2026.
Well, some people tried back in the 90s and 2000s. Remember the whole Jack Thompson era? The idea that violent video games create violent people? That argument got demolished by decades of research. The American Psychological Association, the Supreme Court, study after study, showed that playing violent games does not make you a violent person.
So why do we assume that AI-generated images of fictional adults in sexual scenarios will somehow create predators or harm real people?
It's the same moral panic cycle we've seen with every new medium. Comic books were going to corrupt youth in the 1950s. Rock and roll was the devil's music. Dungeons and Dragons was training kids for satanic rituals. Video games were murder simulators. And now AI art is what? A threat to society because it can generate a picture of a woman in a bikini?
Let's talk about what's actually happening under the hood. Because I think understanding the technology makes the conversation more honest. These AI image generators, Grok included, use something called diffusion models. The basic idea is you train the model on billions of images from the internet, and it learns patterns, shapes, textures, lighting, proportions.
Think of it like this. The AI doesn't store photos and recombine them like a collage. It learns concepts. It knows what person looks like, what bikini looks like, what beach looks like. When you give it a prompt, it's generating something new from those learned patterns. It's closer to how a human artist works from memory than it is to Photoshop.
And the safety filters everyone talks about. Those are basically a second layer of AI that looks at the output and says, does this look like it might be explicit? If yes, block it. It's pattern matching, on top of pattern matching.
The question of who decides what gets filtered is a huge deal, because right now, it's a handful of companies making those calls. OpenAI won't let DALL-E generate anything remotely suggestive. Midjourney has strict content policies, and then Grok came along and said, we're going to be more open.
XAI's pitch from the beginning was that Grok would be the anti-woke AI, less restricted, more willing to engage with edgy topics. And honestly, there's a real market for that. ChatGPT's market share dropped from 80.9% to 52.9% in the same period Grok was growing. People want options.
Now, an XAI executive said in an all-hands meeting that they were generating 6 billion images in 30 days. 6 billion, Google said their image tool generated 1 billion in the same period. So XAI is producing 6 times more images than Google.
6 billion images, let that sink in. The overwhelming majority of those are probably memes, profile pictures, random creative stuff. The controversial content is a fraction of a fraction, but that fraction is what makes the news.
And I think that's worth acknowledging. The conversation around AI-generated content tends to focus exclusively on the worst-case scenario. It's like judging all of YouTube by its worst videos.
So where should the line actually be? Because there has to be one, right?
Here's my framework, and it's pretty simple: real people, real harm. If you're generating non consensual sexual images of a real, identifiable person, that's wrong. Full stop. It's a violation of their dignity, and in many places, it's already illegal. The US passed the Take It Down Act specifically targeting this.
And minors, whether real or fictional, that's another hard line. No debate needed.
But fictional adults, artistic expression involving characters that don't exist. I genuinely struggle to see the victim there. If an artist draws an explicit painting, we call it art. If an AI generates an explicit image of a person who doesn't exist, we call it dangerous. Why?
The counter argument is normalization. That generating this content normalizes objectification and could lead to real world harm down the road.
And that's the exact same argument people made about video games for 30 years. Playing violent games normalizes violence. It didn't hold up then, and I'm skeptical it holds up now. The research on video game violence consistently showed that fiction and reality are processed differently by the human brain.
There's also a consent and labor argument. These models were trained on images scraped from the internet, often without the original artist's or subject's consent. That's a legitimate copyright and consent issue that's separate from the content question.
That's a fair point, and one that courts are actively wrestling with. But I'd argue that's a training data issue, not a content generation issue. You can fix the training pipeline without banning what comes out the other end.
The SpaceX XAI merger adds another dimension here. SpaceX bought XAI for a combined valuation of $1.25 trillion. Musk wants to put AI data centers in orbit. This isn't going away. This is getting bigger.
And the market is telling us something. Users are voting with their downloads. Grok's app downloads spiked. Its market share nearly doubled in 2 months. Whether you agree with it or not, there's massive demand for less restricted AI tools.
I think the honest take is that we're in the messy middle of a technology transition, and the rules haven't caught up. We need clear laws around non-consensual deepfakes of real people. We need hard lines around minors, but we also need to resist the urge to ban everything that makes us uncomfortable.
Because discomfort is not the same as harm, and pixels depicting fictional scenarios involving fictional people are not the same as crimes against real humans. We learned that lesson with video games, we learned it with comic books, and we're going to learn it again with AI.
The question is how many overreactions and bad laws will pass before we get there.
6 billion images in 30 days. The genie isn't going back in the bottle. The only question now is whether we're going to regulate this intelligently, protecting real people from real harm, or whether we're going to have another 20 years of moral panic while the technology leaves the law in the dust.
As always, we want to hear what you think. Where do you draw the line? Drop a comment, leave a review, and we'll see you next week on Things I Know Nothing About.